When two people marry, they form a unified financial entity. When that marriage ends, the law must dismantle that structure. Cohabiting couples rely on strict property law. If your name is on the deed, it is yours. Married couples, however, operate under the Matrimonial Causes Act 1973. Under this act, legal title loses its absolute power. It is immediately superseded by the authority of the family court. The court possesses broad, discretionary power to redistribute capital, income, and pensions. Its singular objective is to achieve a fair outcome. Many assume fairness automatically equals a clean 50-50 split of all assets. In practice, that is rarely the case. Fairness is a calculated outcome. It is driven by the statutory factors of Section 25, functioning through the specific legal principles of needs, compensation, and sharing. In family law, legal title functions as the initial data point for a negotiation that ultimately redistributes that ownership. The Matrimonial Causes Act operates as a three-stage mechanical process: input, filter, and orders. Before dividing a single asset, the court must determine exactly what exists. This is the input phase, where every asset and liability is gathered into the marital pot. This process is managed through Form E. Both parties have a strict, absolute duty to provide full and frank financial disclosure. Hiding assets carries severe consequences. As established in landmark cases like Charland v. Charland, non-disclosure is both a civil wrong and a contempt of court. If fraud is discovered, courts can set aside final orders entirely. They may also draw adverse inferences, legally assuming the hidden asset is worth its maximum value and awarding that amount to the other party. Without total transparency, the architecture of fairness collapses. Accurate disclosure is the most critical phase of the process. Once the marital pot is filled, the process moves to the financial orders used to move assets. First, income orders mandate short-term support or long-term periodical payments. Next, capital orders execute singular cash transfers or force the sale of an asset. The court can also dictate property adjustment orders. A judge can force the transfer of the family home into one spouse's sole name or place the property into a trust. The final category handles pensions. Outside of the family home, a pension fund is frequently the most valuable asset in the marriage, requiring its own division mechanisms. The court chooses between two routes here: a pension sharing order, which physically splits the fund immediately, or a pension attachment order, which earmarks a percentage to be paid only when the spouse eventually retires. The court possesses mechanical tools to alter almost any financial reality, but a judge relies on a statutory rulebook to dictate which tools to use. That rulebook is Section 25. It acts as an analytical filter, taking raw assets and routing them to the appropriate financial orders. The highest priority built into this filter is child welfare. The court must give first consideration to any minor child. In practical terms, the primary carer almost always secures the housing capital to provide a stable home. Once the children are housed, the filter activates for the adults: basic financial needs. This captures the requirement for adequate housing and income. In most everyday divorces, total wealth accumulated during the marriage only stretches far enough to cover basic necessities across two separate households. When assets are limited, the principle of needs overrides all other factors. This frequently results in an unequal division of capital to ensure neither party is left destitute. Basic survival requirements often consume the entire marital pot, making a 50-50 split mathematically impossible. When a marital pot overflows that basic needs threshold, the court applies the next principles: compensation and sharing. For surplus wealth, the starting point is the yardstick of equality. The court views contributions equally. The law draws no distinction between the financial contributions of the breadwinner and the non-financial contributions of the homemaker. This strict equalization ensures the economic partnership of the marriage is respected in the final ledger. There is an exception to equal sharing: asset categorization. The court separates matrimonial property generated during the marriage from non-matrimonial property, such as inherited wealth or premarital assets. The existence of non-matrimonial property provides a legal justification for a judge to depart from an equal division. It allows the original owner to retain a larger share. Fairness ultimately demands that the economic partnership is treated as a true equality of effort regarding the wealth the couple built together. The final objective of this architecture is the Section 25A clean break. Under the Act, the court has a statutory duty to consider terminating the financial obligations between the parties as soon as is just and reasonable. This mandate heavily influences the choice of financial orders. Judges favor immediate capital transfers and pension sharing over the lingering ties of ongoing periodical payments. While obligations for child maintenance remain intact, spousal financial ties should be severed to allow both adults to achieve financial independence. The family court uses these settlements to dissolve past economic ties, granting both parties the resources to build independent futures. Moving from the theoretical powers of the judge to the reality of legal practice requires looking at the family procedure rules. The system demands active case management and requires parties to attempt non-court dispute resolution before escalating to a trial. A crucial step in this process is the financial dispute resolution appointment. At this hearing, a judge gives a clear indication of the likely outcome at trial to guide the parties toward a settlement. Most cases never reach a contested trial. Instead, lawyers use Section 25 principles to negotiate consent orders, which the court then formally approves. The Matrimonial Causes Act 1973 provides a predictable, structured framework that encourages reasonable settlements and allows families to transition out of the legal system.